Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Team VVV podcast. Back again to discuss all of the racing gaming news this week. And today I'm joined by Kevin.
Hello.
And by Tom.
It's Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I tricked you there. So here we are then talking about some of the latest racing gaming news. It has been quite busy over the past week. And of course, one of the big news stories has been the announcement of WRC 8, a game which missed out on a release in 2017. The developers given additional time to really make the improvements they wanted to make. And wow, the trailer really does look very impressive indeed. Lots of improvements in lighting and textures and weather effects, looking very polished in the trailer as well. Kevin, you've had a look through some of the information provided with WRC 8. How's it standing and how's it looking and how's it sound in terms of some of the features they've got on offer?
Yes, I mean, they've had like a 2-year gap now, haven't they? Typically, you'd have a game out every year. So we just expected WRC 8 to come out last year. And of course, we didn't get that. We got V-Rally 4 instead from the same company. So I guess we was expecting at some point WRC 8 to, release this year. But I don't think we quite expected a September release, did we? Because this was revealed just recently. We've had a trailer, but it doesn't come out until another 7 or so months. So considering it's such an early stage, I have to say I'm very impressed with the trailer. They're going for a very much authentic feel now. I mean, they were striving for that before. We've seen the way that the game's evolved from 5, very sort of, I guess you could say, basic sort of sim-like underpinnings, and they improved it in 6. 7 was a big step up in terms of creating more of a simulation-focused title. And I guess 8 will be a natural sort of evolution on that. So they're very much going for the authentic vibe, and you can see in the surface detail, there's plenty going on there. The physics in the trailer perhaps, do not represent the final product because we're so far away from release, so we can't really speak too much on that, because no doubt they will improve that, because in the trailer it did look a little bit sort of unnatural, I guess. When the car was going down a sort of steep decline with a sort of S-bends, it did look a bit unusual. But because we're so far off release, no doubt they'll improve in that area significantly. But it's very much authentic.
I was going to say something there, Kevin, just on that note, actually, is, we saw that a bit with Sebastian Loeb rally a few years ago. The replays looked not great. People said, oh, well, the physics looked terrible, the game looked terrible. In actual fact, that the actual physics weren't simulated in the replay model.
Yeah, which happens a lot in racing games.
It means a lot. And so you had basically a toy car going around the circuit with no suspension, and it just looked terrible. And it still amazes me when you look, you say, what's a market leader? And you say, well, Gran Turismo. And what's one big feature that everybody likes about Gran Turismo? Amazing replays. And you still have to tell games companies that replays are important. Even now with the eSports world, if you're going to watch, how are you going to watch a race on replay angles? Have you done replay angles? No, we haven't really done much on replays. Well, why do you expect anyone to watch it? It's all meant to be about esports and people viewing or people watching back their replays. You've got to show the physics and accurate dynamics of the car in action. You've got to show how people are pushing and, how the tire flex is working and so on. I think it is important. So I do see the elements that people have said in terms of the car movement on a couple of shots there. It isn't perfectly natural, but I do take into account that you can't judge the physics of how the game handles by the way the car looks in a replay. And I've seen a few games where replays look a bit dodgy, but the actual game's handling just fine and looks a bit different. It's a strange thing there. Also, I just wanted to say the environments do look very lush. We always like a bit of foliage at VVV. We love a good bit of grass, and the grass, bushes and trees in Isle of Man TT were outstanding.
Yes,
I think we can easily say that. One of the things I did like about this was some of the views. There was one section in the trailer where you're going on a coastline and you've got the sea there and everything, and it just looks fantastic. Seeing the tracks stretching off into the distance, it kind of reminded me of the first shots of, I guess, the Evolution Studios rally games years ago. And the first shots they showed of it was these tracks winding around mountains going on forever. It looked incredible at the time. And if anything, I found that the rally games lost what I called the journey. They didn't feel like there was a change in the environment, or you were getting from one location to another. You didn't see expansive long straights and the track stretching out for miles in front of you. So it looks like they're getting a lot more epic with the stages. And of course, how many locations? Was it 14 locations this year?
Yes, 14 countries. That's right. Yeah,
14
100 stages apparently. So it's very much
Yeah.
a case of a massive wealth of content compared to, say, Dirt Rally 2, which comes out earlier in the year. Will only launch with 6 rally locations. So it's very much a case.
Puts in perspective, doesn't it? Just how few
it does,
that is.
and it's only 2 years development time as well. So it's a massive package. They've also got other features such as the career mode, which was very much a sort of copy and paste before. This time around, they're adding more elements to that. So it's good to see that they're expanding upon the areas where they really need to focus on. And of course, the multiplayer component will have your weekly challenges, and the eSports competition this year, I think, will kick off before the release of WRC 8. So it will actually feature WRC 7 as far as I know. So I guess next year we'll see WRC 8 transition into the eSports, assuming, of course, the next title won't be released by then. But it's looking good, isn't it? I'd say early on so far.
Looking good. I think it looks like a great looking rally game. I think WRC 7 surprised us. It took a big step forward. I think the wait is going to be worth it. Slightly later than I was expecting it to be. But when you think of how good it's looking already, and it's still got 7 months development, that's a long way to go. That means they're still adding bits to it. We're not in the final polishing or bug stage yet as such. There's still a lot of work going on. I think the build we see at E3 could be very impressive indeed. Very keen to see this at E3 running. I don't know if we'll see much more, but I just think they wanted to get it out there as the season started to let people know, hey, WRC is coming back with a bang. And I think, it's fair to say that you've got the FIA logo and everything on there on the trailer. Esports has got to be a key focus for this game now, and delivering a good esports experience. They've seen the success of F1 esports, and I think there's a big market here, the European market in particular, to see that happen with the rally as well. So big one there to look forward to. Tom, you just had a quick look at the WRC trailer. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, yeah, this is the first time I've seen it. And I honestly, I think the last time I played a WRC game was possibly on the PS2. Nice. So I don't know if my views are going to be sort of too helpful, but is the 60 FPS update on it's likely to go ahead? Well,
we don't know yet.
Right.
That's something that that could be PC footage, or it could be Xbox One X Pro footage for all we know.
I doubt very much it'll be 60 on a standard PS4 or Xbox One. Looking at the visuals, it's going to be probably impossible to do that. But maybe PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and certainly PC, of course, will be 60.
I will push hard to get 16.
Yeah,
60 frames per second. I'll be moaning at the developers.
That's very important, I think, in racing games nowadays. Like I played Forza Horizon 4 a lot recently, and going back and forth between the 30 and the 60 mode, it's night and day, really. The handling fidelity is so nice in 60 FPS. I don't think I could go back now.
No, it makes a huge difference in V Rally. I mean, the difference between the PC version and the console versions, night and day, between what I was playing with the E3 version and the version I have. And it just changes the physics, the feel, the look. It's just a whole different experience. So, and as many viewers will know, I am the 60 frames per second purist. For me, that's what games should all be now. And the Xbox One X and Pro should enable that.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, though, because you've got such a big gap between the two machines now, like the standard Xbox One and the X, for example, and even the PS4 and the Pro. I think you always have to cater to the lowest common denominator, don't you?
Well, that's a console issue, but I think it's a strange one, isn't it? It'd been nice to have had 1080p 60 frames per second options on games, like Forza Horizon. But either way, looking stunning at the moment. Really looking forward to that. Of course, next big game to talk about at the moment is Monster Energy Supercross 2. Kevin, you played quite a bit of the last one. What are your thoughts on the new Monster Energy Supercross so far? So we're going to have a team chat separately about this, but some very brief thoughts from you.
Yeah, so it seems like they've listened to fans for the most part with the sequel. They've improved on so many different areas. I mean, fans will bemoan the whips still, the scrubs, that they're very much still sort of canned animations rather than anything fluid and fast. We want to control our whips quickly. But unfortunately, we're still unable to do that. But outside of that, the graphics have been improved. Physics have certainly been improved. As the riders are much less stiff. Sounds have seen improvements as well. The career mode has little bells and whistles added just to make it a little bit more interesting. Much like, I guess, WRC 8, they've had to put some extra stuff in there because it's very much a copy and paste year after year, which gets pretty tiresome after a few years. But it's certainly a game that improves on a number of areas on the original. And I thought the original was still a pretty strong title, considering it was the first sort of foray into Supercross for Milestone. So, it was a good foundation. And for me, the sequel just expands upon that, improves in a number of areas, like I said. And, it's certainly worth picking up for a Supercross fan.
Absolutely. I mean, Tom, you've been having a quick go on Monster Energy Supercross 2. What were your first thoughts on it?
It's really hard. I'm more of an arcade racer myself. So yeah, I found it. This is probably the first motocross game I've played, I think maybe forever. I think the only one before this may have been something like Excite Bike or something like that, yeah, it's very, I think I need to give it a bit more of a go, and I will give it more of a go. But trying to gauge those jumps is really difficult. I'm really thankful they've got that. What do they call it? The
flow.
That's the one.
Cages,
yeah.
That's really helpful. I think that's going to help me. I didn't do too badly. I think I did too badly for my first go when I played it, but I definitely need some practice on that.
Yeah, it's really hard. And what makes it so difficult is actually the bike itself control is relatively fluid. It's the fact that you've got rider weight and control, you've got a lot of throttle control in there. Yeah. And you need to know your takeoff speed. It's all right saying, you can control yourself in the air, but by the time you realize that you've underdone it for the jump, or you've overdone it for the jump, it's too late.
Yeah.
So you really need to know when you're taking off.
Yeah.
I've overdone this.
You have to learn each track.
Yeah, you have to learn each track.
But there's a satisfying feeling about that whole process. So, it's okay. Some might find it frustrating. There are assists there, but I guess, that's not going to help with the jumps, like you say. But there is this flow aid that gives you an arrow to sort of target, which will give you some initial indication of how to approach it. But, it will come with experience. But the arrow does help, but you really do need to still spend time learning when to back off the throttle, when to go full throttle, when to lean back, when to lean forward over jumps. And it certainly is a challenging title, but it's fun, isn't it?
It's amazingly fun so far. Actually, I've thoroughly enjoyed it on the PC. I've been doing a bit like what you've said. I actually went back to time trials and I put a lot of time into it. And actually, I'm going to talk about that in the team chat, go into some more depth. But there's a lot of depth to the physics in the different weather conditions. But either way, Monster Energy Supercross, you're going to be seeing more of that. Tom, you're going to be off to stream that in just a moment. But before you shoot off, so that stream will be up before this podcast goes up. But before you shoot off, Tom, I just want to ask you, you're going to be running content for Team VVV on the Team VVV Games channel. So you're going to be focusing on our general gaming content. So I urge everybody listening to this to subscribe. That link will be in the description to that new channel. And it's a channel that we sort of used. I say new, it's a channel that we updated sort of a year ago, a couple of years ago. And now we're going to do something more regularly on it. And it gives us all the chance to play some different games as well as the racing. So, Tom, you've been playing Jump Force, which is coming out. Very briefly here now, tell me your first thoughts on Jump Force so far.
Same as Monster, Energy Monster. It was hard.
Hard.
Yeah, it's. I think it's if anyone's played the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm games, guys.
I played Dragon Ball Z, isn't it? They don't call it Z. They call it Dragon Ball Z.
Z, yeah.
Yeah. So I played that. Enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Good fun. Yeah.
It's very much like those Naruto games. So it's like a 3D arena rather than a 2D fighting game. I really struggled with it yesterday. I think it's a lot deeper than those games in terms of they've actually got there's a proper counter system in there, which I could not get used to. I think I'm gonna have to put a bit more time into it, see if I can get used to that. I don't think it's not the deepest fighting game ever, though. On the other hand, I don't think it's going to be sort of I don't think it'll be shown at Evo or anything like that. I think this is purely made for fans of anime.
very interesting to see. I mean, the button combination looks very complex, and that's something which I found wasn't necessarily as intuitive as the fans of us who play Street Fighter or Fatal Fury, Mortal Kombat, whatever. But certainly, the one thing that impressed me was the scale of the Japanese fighting action, and there's lots of shouting, and I love the way people were able to block planet-destroying bombs or bullets. It's like blocked it, no problem. Fire a nuclear bomb at somebody, special move, block it, no problem. Oh, he blocked it. He blocked the nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
it's that kind of.
It's weird seeing some of these characters go up against each other.
Yeah. It is when you know the power of some of them. The planet, galaxy destroying power. But either way, we've been looking at some of those visuals on screen, and Tom, you're going to be covering that in a bit more detail on TMV Games channel, and a lot more to come as well. That's gradually going to grow, so everybody do please pop over there, say hello, and check out some of the latest racing gaming news. Tom, you're going to have to shoot now because you're off to do a stream on Monster Energy Supercross.
I am.
So we're going to say farewell to you now, and we will catch up with you, of course, in the coming days, and we're going to play a bit of multiplayer Monster Energy as well, and we're going to have a go on that together. I think it'll be good fun, us all playing a bit of Monster Energy. So viewers, you can look forward to us all being a bit rubbish on the jumps.
Except
Kevin, because Kevin is actually slightly good.
I'm not good. Don't believe it.
He's bigged you up, Kev.
I know. The pressure now, it's too much.
Oh no, I tell you, no, when you see like the world experts on that game, they are
not me, in other words.
No, not you. They are amazing. I mean, I watch them like they live on it for 2 years.
I know. Who can't compete with that?
No one can compete with that. But as normal players go, we lift off in the air.
We're all right.
Yeah. So that's what we do. So that's it, Tom. I'll be seeing you around, and it's a goodbye from us. So Kevin, looking at the rest of the news now, let's talk a bit about Dirt Rally 2. Lots of Dirt Rally 2 news. What's caught your eye this week?
Yes, I mean, there's not a massive amount of news in terms of showcasing the title. We've had some sort of developer diaries released recently, more or less sort of teasing gameplay rather than showing anything that's sort of really interesting, like say like the career mode and whatnot. But there is of course the full car list was revealed at the end of last month, which is 50 cars strong. It does include 12 rallycross vehicles, as well as the 38 traditional rally racing machines. So, a strong list, but again, it is what we expected, really. There's a lot of repetition from earlier titles from Codemasters, such as Dirt Rally, the original, and of course Dirt 4. So it is pretty much what we expected. There are some nice cars thrown in there. There's a good range of cars. There's plenty of classic rally cars, which we love so much. And the sort of modern classics as well. And of course the 90s cars, such as the Subaru Impreza, Mitsubishi Evolution. There's a few in there as well, and Sierra Cosworths and Deltas and whatnot. So there's a lot there, but not so much for the modern fan, I guess. But that's again because of it's not an officially licensed rally game, so they can't include many, if any, of the modern day rally cars. So it is what we expected. It is a strong list, but I don't think there's a massive amount new there. So it's not exactly set in the world of light.
No, I mean I've not seen sort of, like you say, it hasn't set the world alight in terms of anything really, in terms of standard content. It seems that if Codemasters are going to run this more as a service, then obviously we'll be seeing new cars and tracks and everything build up over time.
That seems to be where they're transitioning, isn't it? Because they're not only talking about new rally tracks, also talking new rallycross tracks. So naturally, we were going to get perhaps some new cars to go with the rally and the rallycross. So they could bump that number up significantly by the time this time next year. But who knows?
Yeah, I think I have to admit, I haven't seen much of the new gameplay yet, so I can't really comment too much on that. I know they've released some gameplay which have on the site over the past week, such as driven by a real rally driver or footage or whatever they've had there. But do look forward to a hands-on at some stage, and then of course we'll have a team chat on the channel and we'll talk about it further. Certainly, it's obviously a big rally game, but I think it's probably the reason why Kiloton have come out with WRC now as well. It's just
remind people that
remind people that they're coming.
Yeah.
One thing that they both have in common, though, is that they're both not supporting VR out of the box.
Yeah.
And I would expect Kiloton has no plans to support VR.
No.
And it does seem like a missed opportunity. I mean, the VR storm for Codemasters kicked off a good 4 or 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's ample time for Kiloton to say, "Hey, we're a year from release. We could steal the march on this."
I mean, I did not expect any VR with Kiloton because, you know, they have short development cycles. You know, a smaller team compared to, say, Codemasters. You know, which means limited resources and whatnot, and they've put those resources into good areas. So, I mean, there's a massive market that don't care about VR and would prefer a title not to have VR. So it enables the development team to really focus on the core aspects of a game, such as, you know, graphics, sound, and physics. So I think this works for Kiloton in the sense that they can provide a more focused package rather than having to cater for a small VR audience. As much as we love VR, and we do, but I think at this stage in VR life cycle, you know, especially on the consoles, I'm talking more consoles now than on the PC, it makes sense to not quite dive into it yet, particularly for a smaller development team. Same with Milestone. I wouldn't expect any VR implementation, PSVR certainly, in terms of their games this generation, but for next generation that could all open up because we have the increased power and whatnot. Hopefully, you know, by then budgets will increase as they continue to sort of flourish, these sort of middle tier development teams. But, you know, it's in terms of Codemasters, they were saying that if there's enough demand for it, they could add that feature. Whether they will or not remains to be seen, but it certainly does seem to be a fair amount of demand, or perhaps it's a small minority just being very loud about the hashtag no VR no buy, which we see everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, isn't it, really? I mean, it was the same with the no cockpit cam, I'd point out. You know, as I say, the Grid 2, no cockpit,
what was
no buy, no
was
cockpit,
it 5% of players?
Yeah, 5% of players that use it.
Well, I'm happily one of those 5%. So.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, and it's like for me, when it's a functioning cockpit, that I use it. Obviously, in Gran Turismo, they haven't given you the options. I mean, Gran Turismo, for example, I don't use a cockpit cam because the wheel doesn't rotate in the game the same as my hands. It actually rotates much more in the game than my real hands. It's really off-putting. Second thing is you can't really adjust the field of view to how you want it, so you need all those features. But no, I think if it was easy to convert it to the PlayStation, they would do it.
Yeah,
I think that for whatever reasons, you know, the PS4 is not powerful enough to do.
No,
it's
not. And just to make sure. Just to reiterate that point, we had Dirt Rally on the PSVR with half a car rendered. So that tells you all you need to know about the limitations of PlayStation VR at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's big limitations there. So I think next generation that will change, but it's just one of those things now. If you've got VR, you're not part of the mass market, you're part of a small niche community. You probably have a powerful PC that can power it, and you probably have a very powerful headset that costs more than most of the consoles.
Once the market is established on the consoles, then we'll see, you know, PC having this technology in place as well in terms of supporting VR. Because if the market is not a viable platform, it's unlikely that they'll just support the PC only.
Yeah, I mean, we raised the point. You know, they're talking about developing PlayStation 5 and will it be backwardly compatible?
Yeah.
And you did a tweet this week about, well, I'd like the wheels to be backwardly compatible.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it'd be really helpful for Sony if the VR headsets are, because it would be great if they could launch the PS5 with a new VR headset, but also say, hey, your old headset will be compatible as well. And then you can play amazing gaming, any game you want on VR. In 1080p, you know, that would be amazing. You know, it would really open that market up, knowing there's already an installed base, and they could sell that as a budget price VR headset by then, as well as perhaps a 4K per eye premium headset to really get that market going. But VR isn't dead. It's amazing. Those that use VR know how amazing it is. They know what it can bring to a racing game, but also everybody needs to be aware of the fact that it's just very demanding on the hardware.
Yep.
So talking about hardware, there was a video released this week, F1 2018 running at 8K. It's funny, I saw this on the website and I watched the video, as many will, thinking 8K. Let's take a look then. Looks like 720p to me. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
You need an 8K monitor to get the full.
I couldn't
fidelity.
tell you if that was running at 8K or not.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the best driving. He did go off
No.
sort of every corner, didn't he? And I
Yeah.
thought, oh dear, you know, we are seeing these sort of 8K demos, but
yeah. Actually, funny enough, to link these two discussions, I have watched 8K videos on the YouTube app on PlayStation VR. And okay, we can't see 8K, we can only see, I don't know, 1080p or whatever it is. And but even so, the extra resolution does count for a lot, because those were the best looking VR videos I've ever seen. So even though you can't display at that native resolution, you're still getting the extra fidelity, because the original source is such a high quality. So yeah, watch that 8K video if you dare, I would say, because the chances are your PC might melt, or you just won't be able to view it. But those that can,
it doesn't stream that smoothly anyway. No, exactly. And now moving on, then we've got American Dream. What's this? Car Wash Simulator.
Yes. So this is one of quite a range of new simulator titles published from Playway. They've come out with a range. I will put more on the website shortly. So Car Wash Simulator is basically you create your own car washing business from scratch, pretty much, and you can sort of engage in some shady deals with the local gangsters. And they showed a trailer. It's on the website. You can check it out, with a corpse in the boot. So you see the hand sort of flailing out the boot there, and he just sort of casually puts it back in, and the police arrive just in time. But yeah, it looks like a bit of fun. It's sort of one of those games.
Bizarre. Yeah.
It's like, you got OCD about cleaning things. Plenty of people got OCDs about certain things. Certain things have to be in order or whatever. It seems like one of those games that is going to appeal to your sort of OCD nature, a bit like the street cleaning simulator, if you remember that one from before. It's bizarre games, and
you just want to dress up like be the wolf out of Pulp Fiction. You just want to imagine
they've
you're the
got
wolf.
another game called Bum Simulator, where you sort of simulate a homeless person, and it's like, where do we stop? It's getting a bit crazy now. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, it's just strange, wasn't it? But when you think of like playing all these games, and somebody at home right now hoovering their car, right now they're just sitting there having a hoover, chilling out. And then at the end of the day, after cleaning their car, they've I've just looked at the trailer with the body and the hand hanging out and the cop. It is very bizarre, isn't it? It is very bizarre. Well, there you have it, viewers. So that's a little bit of Car Wash Simulator. Do keep an eye out for that. Other news, of course, we've had a big update for Grip this week as well. Lots of elements added for that, of course, which is sort of roll cage style game, which we covered quite a bit of last year. And also moving on also swiftly through this news, we have Crash Team Racing have revealed some screenshots for the Nintendo Switch, apparently.
Yeah.
I say apparently because the screenshots look way too good for the Nintendo Switch for me. Just way too good for a driving game.
There is a slight fuzziness to the images, so apparently these are Switch, but you never know for sure, because you do have different platforms. Even on this is on the Nintendo website, but even so, it's not unusual to have different platform images featured even on the official Nintendo website. So
that's right. Often they have
want to showcase the
standard
best
images. Showcase images they just send out. I suppose it depends on the frame rate. I mean, we've covered quite a few Switch racing games on the channel. They've never looked very good. It's never handled racing games very well at all. And I look at these graphics and think that looks very impressive, way better than Mario Kart. I think those are like PlayStation 4 Pro screenshots myself, but we'll wait and see. I've been, I can't say I've ever been impressed before by anything on there, but we'll see. And Nintendo tend to squeeze out massive performance out of the system. But in terms of other developers, this does very much look like a carbon copy of the PlayStation version. The game does look remarkably impressive, though, it has to be said. I mean, this is a proper HD remake. And when you think of all your dream games being made in HD, this is a really impressive version. There's so many great games we'd love to see brought forward like this, but it does look fantastic. What else have we got, Kevin? Is there anything else that sort of caught your eye this week?
We had a ride-free patch, which made the time trials easier, which was much needed, I might add. This is one area which I mentioned in the review that really sort of stood out as a very big annoyance in the game. It was the time trials, because you have set times, regardless of what difficulty you would choose, the AI, the times would still be the same. Of course, you're not racing against the AI, understandably, but if you've put the AI difficulty down, really and truly, those time trial target times should reduce, because it's just to suit the difficulty. Unfortunately, they were locked, and they were very hard to achieve. I mean, I struggled. I couldn't even get gold in some of the events, and I was really trying. So they were far too difficult, especially for the average punter. So it's good to see that they've actually improved that. They've not actually brought the times down, but what they've done is they've increased the performance points limits on the bikes that can compete in the time trial events, thus making it sort of easier in a roundabout sort of way. But yeah, it's good that they've addressed that. I would like to have seen that patch a little bit sooner, though.
Yeah, it has taken a while, hasn't it? I mean, sometimes these patches do take longer than they should,
but that's the console verification system, isn't it?
Sometimes there are things that you feel have sort of rolled over from previous games, or things that you feel like they just needed a bit more polishing for a few more weeks before releasing it. Sometimes they kick these games out the door these days, clearly unfinished, and just kind of lets it all down a bit, because people play it for a bit, they walk into a brick wall in the game, as it were, and then they it puts them off playing the game again. They just get rid of it, and then you lose your installed base. Then nobody's available to play online. So when you do fix it, ultimately there's just the hardcore left who really enjoy it, and you've kind of lost your biggest audience. But either way, it's good to know that Milestone is still working on it, and it's always positive to know when developers are still working on their games and fixing them and bringing them together. Just a change of tack for a second. We've got Farming Simulator eSports now, €250,000 prize pool.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, this is fascinating news. I mean, farming competitions. Wow. Have you seen any information on this, Kevin, in terms of how that's going to be broken down? I assume it's going to be how quick can you yield your crops, and how good are you at cultivating your field ASAP.
Yeah, so apparently they've changed the system what they had before. So it's gone from sort of I think it was bale stacking before. It's more of a free versus free mode, like a team battle thing they got going for this esports. But what a whopping prize pool! I mean, I think the SMS Slightly Mad Studios esports for Project Cars, I think, is about 20,000. Just to give you some comparison here, so this is over 10 times that amount. So it's a massive prize pool. It's no doubt going to entice a lot of newcomers to the world of farming. And there is a big market for these simulator games. We mentioned Car Wash Simulator earlier, and there's plenty on the horizon in terms of games that are coming over to the console market now. So we've got like Truck Driver coming to consoles, which is traditionally like a PC sort of simulator game. So they're coming more and more into the mass market now. And I personally, I love these simulator games. As silly as some of them are, it does, it's a fun experience for me personally. I used to play the old truck driving games from many years ago, sort of 18 Wheels of Steel and what have you back then. So it's only, I guess it's not a massive surprise that a simulating title, even though it's very niche, farming is not going to attract huge numbers, one would imagine, but it's still not surprising to me that they've had this farming thing going on. It has been going on for a number of years, but only now is it really coming to people's attention with prize pools of €250,000 is staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's amazing how like this, everyone's trying to get into esports. I mean, we do talk about it regularly, how what is esports, who's benefiting from esports, why, who's putting that money in the pot, and what are they getting out of it. It's all fascinating at the moment, the way esports is working. But you never cease to be surprised how big some of the audiences are that play some of these different niches and put an awful lot of time into it. And I think the farming community, I mean, it's like when I visited the farm last year, you think about it, but farming is an enormous industry with incredible equipment. And when you're playing the farming sim, which I quite enjoyed in my own sort of OCD way, even I got confused about trying to use the tree chopping machine. It was
There's a
something
lot of different machines you notice in farming.
yeah, there is a
So
lot
many
of different machines,
attachments and
and
stuff.
once you know how to use them, it's
Yeah.
easy. But when you don't, and I can imagine for somebody watching the stream who knows how to use it, it's very irritating for them to watch to see somebody learning. But when you're first doing your field and everything, you're all over the place. I mean, there's a real learning process to knowing the process and doing it quickly.
Yeah.
And all those vehicles had, I mean, it's like reversing with a trailer.
Yeah,
It's just so hard. It's unbelievable. Okay, and we did it in real life, and it was really hard. But to the farmer, no problem. Do you know what I mean?
This is it. I mean, real life farmers will play Farming Simulator.
Yeah.
Real life truck drivers come home from a day of truck driving and they play the Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator games. So it's like they like it enough to even if they're coming from the real world of that as an occupation, to actually get play the game that they actually do in real life. So it's not just like people playing out their fantasies. People in the very environment play these games, so which is interesting, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Farming is hard work.
It is hard work. It is hard work, but they love it, and yeah, very interesting. Something we're going to keep an eye on. Getting to the bottom of the news now. I don't know if we have any questions. You can take a look. We unfortunately, viewers, we've been a bit late asking for questions this week. That's an understatement, I know. So one of those things. We will get further ahead. As I say, we will normally ask for questions. We're going to ask from a few days in advance next time, so you guys have more and more time to find out when we're going to be asking for questions. We've got some notes up on the website just today at the moment, as it happens, just about Forza Motorsport improving their force feedback system. So that's supposed to be coming today, interestingly. We'll wait and see. I know people have been asking me what I think of physics updates and stuff like that to the wheel. I don't have an Xbox wheel attached to my base at the moment. It's a bit of a pain changing wheels and bases over. I can't tell you that. That's an understatement as well. It's a massive pain changing wheels and pedals on my rig. It's a big issue. So when I do change back over to the Xbox and PC variant, then I'll be testing some of that. But in the short term, as I'm doing all the Gran Turismo at the moment, it is handy for me just to stick with this wheel. But I am open to hearing some of your thoughts and impressions on the new improved wheel control. It'd be very interesting to see. One of the things that's fueling this is the eSports feedback. And the eSports feedback has been largely negative. A lot of the best eSports players use a controller, obviously, because on the whole, the controller is easier. But at finals for events, racing teams and companies want to see people using a wheel and pedals because they want authenticity to the experience. So that means a lot of the top players, and they're having to qualify with a controller and then get to the final and use a wheel. Now everybody's trying to put I've seen quite a few gamers saying, "Oh, the wheel's okay. I still manage good times with the wheel," and all that rubbish at the moment. Everyone's trying to sort of bump it up a bit. No. The wheel control needs work.
Yes.
Turn 10 know it. Everybody else knows it. They need to fix it. It's something I've moaned about for years, and I've had a lot of flack from the community. But I'm glad that they're finally knuckling down and trying to do something about it. So I will come back to this. And like you say, this could mean big steps forward when they eventually come to Forza Motorsport 8.
Yeah, which may or may not be this year. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 4 games into Forza Horizon now, so I did expect, or we should expect excellent wheel support. So it is disappointing that they're still at this stage very much sort of in the dark ages, if you like, for actually providing an experience for wheel users. And let's be honest, wheel users are becoming more and more a bigger market now as more and more people buy wheels. More and more people are looking for that sort of simulation experience. And of course, we still like to play arcade races with our wheels, because we do it because it's fun. And I want to get on to Forza Horizon 4 and have a lot of fun with a wheel. I don't care if it's not massively authentic. I just want to have fun with my wheel. So it was very disappointing that this late in the game that we still we still don't have decent wheel experience with a Forza title. Very frustrating.
Yeah, it's something that you say Forza's been on a journey over the years. I mean, as I say, I much preferred Forza Motorsport 3 and 4. 4, when it launched with a wheel, was fantastic. I really liked it. And then, as I said before, they had all this moaning about, oh, it doesn't do 900 degrees or, some crazy about degrees for drifting. And then they did something, they broke it, and it just hasn't worked properly since. Yeah, when they launched Forza Motorsport 5, I remember trying a cars without traction control and just spinning out. It just didn't feel right at all. You couldn't get on the power at all. There was no feeling from it. It just wasn't right. And so ever since then, I've not felt the car very well through the wheel at all. It's just car behaves, unresponsive. It's just not like a real car. It's nothing like a real car. So it's positive, but we'll just wait and see what the improvements are and whether they actually work. So much needed improvements, but I do look forward to the future of the Forza franchise. They've got a massive audience. They just really need to sort that situation out. I think sometimes when people listen to channels like ours and we moan about these things, I think we're seen as sort of this niche specialist, a bit like the no VR, no buy people. In actual fact, we're talking about a much larger market. It's just a fundamental issue on the physics of the game and how it works. And I think that can get lost when a game is popular and it sells well. People think, the game's perfect. People are moaning about it. They're just talking rubbish. It makes a lot of money. And then you end up going down the need for speed road and completely losing your way. So, I think that's going to be something that I'm interested to see, the steering of Forza Motorsport. And yeah, I mean, in some respects, it's almost like Forza Horizon has taken over as the premier Forza brand at the moment. Forza Horizon has been so well received this year. So we'll wait and see. Great tech, but is Forza 8 coming this year, or are they going to hold it back for a couple of years now and wait for the next generation format? What can Forza 8 do the Forza 7 hasn't done? I think that's another thing as well. Remember, bearing in mind it's held back significantly by the original Xbox One hardware, which really holds back what they do. And so in that sense, very impressive what they managed to squeeze out of it. But I think that's about it for now. Any questions, Kevin? We were very late getting the questions out, and if not, viewers, we'll handle them another time. Is there any questions, Kevin?
There is questions. So we start with Twitter. Nick asks, will Assetto Corsa Competizione come to current consoles?
It's highly unlikely at this stage. Highly unlikely. The detail and the physics and the graphics and converting it and the time it took to convert the original Assetto Corsa. I see that companies like that may want to hold back for the next generation.
Yes.
Bearing in mind that next generation games will probably already be in development this year. By the time they could launch on the new hardware with a system they know will run it authentically like the PC now, rather than downgrade it significantly to get it running on console. They might not. They might convert it to PS4 and Xbox One. Bearing in mind that, again, any game needs to run on PS4 and Xbox One. So if they can get Assetto Corsa Competizione running on the Xbox One, then great. But we'll wait and see. Optimization-wise, they still have quite a ways to go, work to be done there. So jury's still out. It depends how well optimized the final game is, and then we'll get a bit of better idea. So that's my thoughts on Assetto Corsa. Kevin, what other questions have we got lined up this evening?
Yeah, so Tom asks, do we know anything about the status of the Formula Fusion on the PS4?
Good question. No news at the moment. It's been quiet for some time. However, we do have our ear to the ground. There is rumblings that something's going to come soon. Could be quite exciting, but we'll just have to wait and see when we have more information and we can talk about that a bit more. But certainly it's one I'm looking forward to. Fans will know I'm deeply passionate about Wipeout and development of that series and, futuristic races in general. So looking forward to it. And it's one that we hope we can cover in some depth in the next few months when we know more.
Yeah. So Yi touches on Forza about whether it will be releasing a new entry this year or not, but we have sort of touched on that before. Ollie Martin asks, will Dirt Rally 2 support local hot seat multiplayer? Oh no, he's referring to where players take turns one after the other. That's what he's referring to.
Oh, like sort of from a tag team in a way.
Yeah, but it's almost like each player has its separate sort of entity, if you like. Each has its own sort of entry into a rally. And to answer that, I'm not actually sure off the top of my head whether Dirt Rally 2 will have that feature. There is plenty of news on the website. We do have a dedicated Dirt Rally 2 page. It's worth having a look there. But off the top of my head, I can't actually remember if it will have this feature. We have seen this feature in previous rally titles, so it wouldn't be a massive stretch to expect this.
No. Well, Well, I have no idea. So I'm just going to leave it with you on that one. But in terms of driver changes, no. So in terms of teams, I think it's always nice to have different options in there. But we'll wait and see.
Anthony asks our thoughts on Codemasters not having VR support, but which we've already touched on. And finally, Jake asks what's happening about Wreckfest on consoles. No news since it was delayed.
No, it has been suspiciously quiet for a while. That means a trailer must be ready to drop at some time. A trailer has got to be ready to drop.
I think
soon.
A good time for that trailer would probably be after, possibly after release of Dirt Rally 2.
Yeah.
There are some new games coming out with Supercross as well in a few days. So, I mean, sometimes companies like to release their trailers to coincide with the release of another game, you know, just to let people know, as we mentioned earlier, they're still here, you know, there's competition going on, but who knows? It could launch at any time now, couldn't it?
I think the trailer could even drop next week.
Yeah,
I think one could come next week, but we'll wait and see.
Okay, that's about it then for the questions.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kevin. So that's it, viewers, for the chat this week. Lots of news in racing games. We're at that sort of early time of the year, really, when there's lots of news, but the big news is sort of already starting to be held back for E3 after the first quarter releases. But there's still some to come, and we'll be on top of it all on the website. Kevin's been keeping up with all the racing gaming news on the website. Do check it out. There's lots on there, lots to discover in the game section. And of course, do check out the release schedule as well, just to keep up with all the latest releases and release news. And we'll be adding more and more there throughout the year as we know more. You'll see it appear there. But that's it from myself, Kevin, for now, and there'll be more from us very soon.